Yo, what up, fam? It's your boy McKade back with another video. I had just put out a video checking out the new Marvel Rivals trailer, and I came across this video. I haven't watched it yet, from Willow, and I will put Willow's link below for this video. In this video, Willow talks about all the characters, the abilities, and an analysis of the classes or whatever. So let's go ahead and start the video and
I really
check it out.
wasn't expecting to make this video, but I've been talking about Marvel Rivals on Twitter basically since it became a game. If you haven't been following, Marvel Rivals was teased about 48 hours ago as a 6v6 Overwatch style hero shooter, but with
it's a
Marvel
6v6?
characters.
Okay.
And
That's
that
cool.
sounds like exactly my kind of game. I did a pretty big thread on Twitter where I went over what each of the different characters do in Marvel Rivals to give you a better idea of what characters are interesting to you. Because
I haven't seen it yet. I'll have to check that out from
watching the trailer over and over again, so I might as well share all the details I found. And I was very surprised by the amount of interest in such a tweet, so I decided I'd kind of take all the information that's in that Twitter thread and convert it into
I'm hyped to play this, just to check it out.
Of detail. Okay, so first things first, before we jump into any character-specific stuff, I want you to know about the universal rules of the game. As we just talked about,
I'd rather like to have a Marvel MOBA like League of Legends instead of this, but I mean, this is cool.
It's not like you're going to queue for
check it out.
a game of Escort. You're just going to queue for a game.
They had one game several years ago that was like called Marvel's End-Time Arena, but you could only play it in like Korea or something like that.
With that in mind, there are two game modes.
And then they ended up shutting it
down. That we'll call Escort mode for now, even though we don't really have an
Escort mode. I would think it's like the payload in Overwatch.
It should be relatively self-explanatory.
The payload.
If you've played other shooters before, but I'm going to use this video as kind of a blanket slate. So even if you've never played a shooter before, I want everything to be understandable in this video to you. Escort means we're going to have some type of payload or something that we push.
Yeah, see, that's what I was saying.
So on the offensive side, your goal is going to be taking whatever you're escorting.
Dude, look at Punisher. He's like,
where the enemy players start off.
Magneto's putting up some kind of shield or something. I'm sure Mantis does some kind of healing. But Punisher's like behind that. He's on that turret shooting.
Much as simple as that. Think of it as a really intricate version of.
And the turret has like the Punisher icon, the Punisher logo.
FPS game before. King of the Hill should be a pretty straightforward concept. Whoever's inside of the hill is collecting points. There are a handful.
Oh, King of the Hill mode. Okay.
King of the Hill mode, so it could be whoever has the most points at the end of a certain amount of time. It could be the first to get this amount of points. So there's slightly different implications there, but for the most part, the King of the Hill game mode should be fairly straightforward. Get more points equal win. We've seen health packs around the map, so these act as like mini objectives to fight over. I don't think that there are other types of buffs, so like
Bruce Banner looks cool though.
Like that. So far, I've just seen health packs.
Probably have to like
buffs that you can pick up around the map. I just haven't seen them yet.
Get some kind of percentage, and then you Hulk up or whatever. Then you turn into Hulk.
Now, one thing to keep in mind is that we've seen destruction from a bunch of different sources. We've seen destruction from regular guns, ultimate abilities, and
Black Panther does cool.
Abilities.
Black Panther's
so I don't think it's as simple as a big ability destroys stuff, or I don't think it's as simple as certain types.
Penny
of
Parker?
What? I think it's literally just going to be the case that these environments have a certain amount of health, and once you deal that much damage,
they could. There's potential in this. They could bring a lot of characters that a lot of people don't know into this.
Shooting at, well, he's not really shooting at the wall. He's shooting at enemies. He's just missing. But the wall that's behind the enemies he's trying to shoot at.
And then like MCU's doing really well. You got X-Men coming out, new X-Men movie, new Fantastic Four and stuff.
So yeah, that's my guess, is that there's just kind of like...
And they could do a lot of stuff with this. X-Men 97 just started again, or just came out, or whatever.
Everything was destructible. It seems like there's just certain objects on the map that
I'm kind of scared to watch it. I haven't watched it yet. I'm kind of scared to watch it, because I feel like they're going to ruin it or something.
But the destructible objects do make a big difference. Gameplay-wise, in one clip we can see Black Panther destroying a bridge, right? That's a point A to point B that is no longer crossable. In the particular example that they show, I don't think.
Yeah, that's cool too. How there's like destructible environment.
Break any game plans, but you could see how that type of destruction leads to lots of situations where people have to alter their gameplay style. Or
yeah, that's cool. That's neat that they did that.
Before we jump into characters, I want to talk about team up abilities and how they work. And for full transparency's sake, I'm recording this section about team ups a day after.
I'll tell you a win, a W for them that he's doing this. Make it free to play and only have skins be microtransactions.
So my initial interpretation of
but make it free to play.
Team up abilities were existing abilities that were modified if you had the assigned character.
I didn't even know this was like
so for example, let's take a look at Hulk. Hulk has an infused ability, and my interpretation of the infused ability is that you can use it
Hulk
on any character, but Iron Man got some type of benefit for your using it on him specifically. That is not the
Oh,
case.
okay. I didn't
Infused
realize that.
must be used on Iron Man specifically. We have two reasons to believe this. One is the website description. The specific quote from the website is Hulk can unleash gamma energy to help charge up Iron Man's armor for massive damage. And another reason we think this is
so there's
every
synergy
single
between Hulk
character
and
that
Iron
had
Man.
an ability tied to the C key happened to use a team up effect with that C key. With one exception, Namor had a turret that was bound to his C button and did not have a team up attack. Now, Luna Snow has a team up ability with Namor, but Namor does not have a team up ability with Luna Snow. At least we haven't seen one yet. And I would assume that Namor is not going to have a team up ability because his key that you would normally use a team up ability with is occupied by his turret, which is a core part of his kit. So, yeah, team up abilities.
Okay, so this is not going to be a mobile game at all.
That only are available to you while you have an assigned character on your team. For example, Groot can't ride any character. He has to ride Groot. Hulk needs to charge up Iron Man. Luna Snow needs to give her buff to Namor. But keep in mind, for the rest of this video, when I'm talking about team up attacks, I'm under the wrong impression. I'm underneath the impression that team up attacks, or team up abilities, I should say, are just modified versions of abilities the character otherwise has access to, and that assumption is wrong. So have that in the back of your head, and let's jump into some characters. Starting off with Iron Man. Iron Man is a DPS character. Again, I'm trying to make this video as adaptable for non-FPS players as possible. It stands for damage per second, so I'm going to refer to all damage-dealing characters. That means characters that are focused on damage. Obviously, everyone can deal damage, but characters that are focused on specifically the role of reducing the enemy's health bar to 0 are going to be referred to as DPS characters. He has 100 ammo and 250 health. 250 seems about average for these damage-dealing characters. I haven't seen anybody lower. I have seen someone higher, but generally 250 is like the spot for these damage-dealing characters. Let's first take a look at his shift ability because I think it's the most interesting one to look at. It's this glide. Now, what's curious about this glide is that he moves very rigidly. He kind of just looks like he goes from point A to point B. So I'm wondering if maybe Iron Man's flight, and keep in mind in this trailer we only have a video flying, but I'm kind of thinking that Iron Man's movement in the air might be fairly restricted compared to what you might expect out of Iron Man gameplay. Because in both clips where you can see him using this kind of glide ability, his video. It's on his side. He moves like an arrow. He moves completely straight from point A to point B. My current interpretation is that it just moves the character from point A to point B as opposed to being like an additional movement. Honestly, this ability alone makes it really hard for me to think about how Iron Man works, but I thought I would mention it anyway. Still cool though. Moving on to his stance switch, here's an example of it before and after. Basically, these little attachments that are coming out of Iron Man, I think that this is his stance switch effect. I don't really know what the difference between the two forms is going to be. We can see that on the HUD, his left click and his right click
they change
dramatically both before
when you
and after
switch.
him using E. It's really hard to gauge exactly what this ability is doing, but basically I think while he's in this stance, he'll just be stronger in some way. We can actually take a look at a quick example of him using the same ability both in this stance switch form and outside of this stance switch form. So keep in mind that he also has a buff from Hulk, a team up ability buff from Hulk here on the left.
Right, it's blue. The beam is blue before the team up ability, but then when Hulk does the team up ability, it becomes green, like Gamma Infused.
And assisting him with that big beam. Now, if we go over to the clip on the right, you can see Iron Man kind of freely flying around using the same beam ability, but it's significantly less enhanced, and it looks much weaker, and he doesn't have those
more generic, basic.
So basically, I think the distinction between these two isn't just the Hulk power-up that he gets, it's also this stance switch ability that we've described just now. I've just called this ability Rocket. It's a simple rocket that comes out of Iron Man. It deals damage in an area. It looks like it's maybe only 50 or 25 damage, so not much damage at all. And there's no knockback applied to the person that's hit down there either. So it seems just like kind of a standard ability he can throw out.
Does it knock Luna Snow back?
But it's definitely not his centerpiece. Lastly, we go over Maximum Pulse. This is his ultimate ability. Make no mistake, this thing that you're seeing here at the beginning is just his MVP pose. So that's like at the end of the game, whoever has
That's the
MVP,
ultimate when you do your ultimate.
animation or
Okay.
whatever. We've seen that for most of the characters.
Oof.
I played it at the beginning of this video. It's really hard to tell how much damage this is doing.
That looks pretty neat though.
Because we don't ever see any of the
Looks pretty sick.
bars, so it's hard to say if this is meant to be like a crazy.
It's like a little mini supernova.
Ultimate. I assume it's not. They're probably dramatizing this for the video, so the character's health bars are probably lower than.
Does it? I don't think it does a knockback. I think it just does a bunch of damage.
A big AOE damage effect like this, it just cannot be bad
Do
unless
a
the damage
knockback.
numbers
Let's
are
see.
just way too low, and that's only one balance pack
Hard to
away
tell.
from changing, so
I know, look like it
definitely
did,
gonna
but
be like a big hype ability that you see a lot of. So moving on to Bruce Banner. Bruce Banner is a start switch character, meaning
okay,
that
he's a
he has
tank.
he's kind of like two characters in one. Bruce Banner and the Hulk. He's a tank class. While in Bruce Banner form, he has 20 ammo. While in Hulk form, he's a melee character, so he has infinite ammo. And then his HP while he's Bruce Banner is going to be 200 and 900 while in Hulk. With a caveat, there's a clip of him
900 health,
his ultimate
okay.
ability where he has substantially higher health. So I want to say that Hulk's health actually scales based on how much you've done with Bruce Banner, or maybe how many times you've transformed into Hulk, or something like that, rather than having like a flat health value. Right before Bruce goes into his Hulk form, we can see that he has a grenade ability, and we can see that same grenade attached to his waist.
I was gonna say it's attached
with the 25
to the left, right? To the left of his waist.
Bruce shooting this pistol, so we have no idea how it behaves. It could be, you know,
it's probably like a diva,
be a burst
Diva or whatever her name is from
move on to
Overwatch,
other Hulk
like his
abilities. We'll take a look at
gun.
that full
It's probably
ultimate
something
that I was
like that.
describing before. This
When
is the
she's
same
not in her
one
mech,
where he had
when
50
she's not inside her
I'm
mech.
not exactly sure how this ultimate works. It looks like he's just going to be able to select a person and deal a bunch of damage to him. So single target ultimate ability, probably not the craziest thing for a tank, but he'll probably just use this every single time he goes into Hulk form, because you probably just want to get the most value you can out of Hulk before you switch back into Bruce Banner. My current interpretation is that you'll be switching in and out of Bruce Banner relatively frequently. I want to say like the obvious comparison that everyone wants to bring up, which is that it's similar to Diva, but it's kind of reversed.
Oh, see, he just said it.
Match as Bruce Banner, and you kind of earn the Hulk. So there is like a meaningful difference there. Right after Hulk lands here, he does 2 left clicks on this person and follows it up with his right click ability, which is like this clap.
It does a combo.
It seems like it
like
just
1-2
does
clap.
damage, like, right in front of him, so it can probably hit multiple targets, which is pretty important. We don't get an idea of how much damage it does, because unfortunately the 2 left clicks that Bruce does here does enough damage.
A lot of damage, yeah.
Even just one more left click would have killed the person, so all we know about this right click is that it's
Mess
at least
that
as
Namor
powerful as using the regular attack button on Bruce. We get a quick look at Infuse. This is the same ability that had a team-up effect while being used on Iron Man. As I talked about at the beginning of this video, you can use this on any character. It just has a bonus effect when you use it on Iron Man. I imagine that this is going to be a simple damage buff, maybe an attack speed buff or something like that, though I just assume it's a flat damage buff, because it doesn't make much sense to give an attack speed buff to Iron Man based on what we know about Iron Man so far. I do want to point this out because they did a little bit of trickery in the trailer, and I noticed it, and it kind of irritated me. But going into this fight, we can see this jump indicator for what I'll call Hulk's leap. This is not tied to any abilities. We don't see him trigger any abilities here. It just kind of appears. So my current guess is that when you attempt to jump with Hulk, you'll see this kind of arcing arrow as you see on your screen currently, and then you can choose to get a crazy jump from there. I assume you could like hold this button, and the thing that they tried to convince you in the trailer is that Hulk is dragging Namor down here and then dealing damage when he hits the ground, but none of that's actually happening. If you slow down the footage,
Namor was already falling.
Namor starts to descend before Hulk makes contact with Namor. So Namor's already naturally falling. Then they play another trick, which is right as Hulk lands, Hulk's doing a left click. So it looks like the landing from the jump is dealing damage, but it's not. If you pay
it's not, because he was already falling.
The first burst of damage that comes from the left click here is the identical amount of damage coming from the second left click. So it's not the case that the jump is dealing damage, or else we would see a discrepancy between those 2 damage numbers. So yeah, nothing major. It's just kind of interesting that they played such a big trick in the trailer like that. Moving on to Spider-Man. Spider-Man's another DPS character. He is a melee character with 300 health. No team-up effect for Spider-Man just yet.
No team-up.
We've seen 2 abilities from Spider-Man.
Maybe in the future.
Well, technically we've seen 4 of his abilities. We'll talk a bit about that in a second. Let's
first the Madam Web movie. I don't know if Madam Web is out yet, but maybe they'll put her in the game.
Here. you see Spider-Man come in from
Spider-Man's
the
team up
right.
will be with
Watch
her,
how
like
quickly
Gwen
this ability
Stacy or
happens.
something.
Very, very fast. It gains so much velocity. Boom!
Or
Look at him
Penny
go.
Parker,
So, yeah,
you
you
know.
can get a lot of movement out of this ability. It's
Why didn't they
worth
give him a
mentioning that he
team
only
up
has
with
3
Penny
charges
Parker?
of this ability. We've seen that later on in his HUD. Moving on to his ultimate ability, the Amazing Spider-Man. People have compared this to Reaper's ultimate from Overwatch. It's a relatively decent comparison, but my guess is it's going to be dealing significantly less damage than Reaper's ability because it has a little bit of extra bonus. That bonus being, once it hits enough times, it'll stun the target.
Nice! It does stun.
Like a big AoE wipe ability. You're going to see a lot of team fights, and it's going to be super annoying.
Spider-Man's definitely going to be popular.
Spider-Man out of the air if you want your team to be able to survive their team fights. Now,
God,
I do
their
want to
strange
point out
portal
that
is so
Spider-Man receives
sick.
a 250 shield right as he goes into this ultimate. It's not entirely clear to me that the 250 shield is coming from his ultimate. It might be coming from an allied character that's off camera, so I don't want to say that he just gets a bunch of shield when he uses this ability, but it could make sense for him to get this shield, to have a little bit of survivability.
For going into ultimate,
targetable the same way any character would be targetable for this type of effect.
I mean, that makes sense to give him a shield.
Kind of like a built-in defense, maybe, but it could also just be a character from off-screen. So keep that in mind. Not definitely
maybe Mantis or something
from his ult here, but he very well could be. Here's kind of like a bonus round for Spider-Man. We do get to see 2 of his abilities triggering, but unfortunately these abilities never actually hit a player, so we don't really exactly know how they work. If we slow down this clip from Black Panther, we can see Spider-Man attempting to use his web shot ability,
like a web shot or something,
HUD, and unfortunately it just totally misses, and we have no idea what happened there. And right before Spider-Man gets into a fight with Magic, he goes for an uppercut ability that we also saw on his HUD and completely misses it. I assume that uppercut ability will lead to some type of hit stun, so you can get in a bunch of free damage and the person's kind of interrupted through whatever they were doing before. And then also I assume web shot probably is just kind of like a standard-ish projectile, but we'll just have to wait and see. Moving on to Penny Parker. Man, I was so excited about Penny Parker, but unfortunately, I don't think her gameplay is going to be for me. Penny Parker is a tank. She's a melee character, but she does have some type of ammo. I'm going to call this 7 ammo. I'll talk a bit about that in a second. And then she has 950 health with an asterisk. In the one and only clip we see of her HUD, that 950 health is accounting for some shield that she has, so that shield might only be applicable during her ultimate. So I didn't want to truly count that as her total, so I just wanted to have that asterisk there. Now, she has a wall crawl, which is really cool. We're going to see that in the first clip. And then we're also going to see this web dash ability. It happens at the very beginning of the trailer, so it's a quick and blink and you'll miss it type of moment. She dashes from kind of, it looks like there's probably one building here to a little bit off camera. So it looks like she's kind of jumping from one platform to another using this kind of web dash ability. And then shortly after, she runs up this wall. So cool movement tech from Penny Parker. During her ultimate, she's always moving forward, so she might be locked into this movement state. And then she's also leaving behind these mines, and these mines look really similar to, or I guess these drones, which look very similar to the icon tied to her right-click ability, the one with 7 charges. So my current interpretation of this is that
she just dashes and drops the mines, and
it doesn't count as using the ammo that's tied to it. While she's in her ultimate, she just kind of leaves behind these mines or these drones or whatever. And it looks like, my guess is that if you step in these mines, it does bad things to you, or if you step in that field. So she's kind of got a bit of AoE disruption stuff going on, which is really cool. And then also, each of her left clicks that she's doing while she's in this ultimate are applying knockback to these characters. So perhaps maybe like a particularly good way
of knocking people
off of the map. If there's scenarios where to do that, and then also knocking people out of objectives, which is also super important. Definitely a tank.
It's pretty neat how she does not back.
Unfortunately, even though I'm a huge Penny Parker fan, I don't think that this character is going to be for me. It's just not the type of playstyle I'm looking for. Definitely a worthy addition to the roster, though, and definitely...
Yeah, it's cool they put her in there.
Just not my personal taste. On to Loki, our first support. Man, I'm really excited about Loki. I did not expect to be this pumped for Loki. Loki's probably the character I'm looking forward to most right now. He has 10 ammo,
acts as a turret.
Health, and we have a pretty good idea of how all of his abilities work. So before we get into the footage of the abilities we've actually seen, I want to talk about 2 abilities that appear on his HUD that we can be reasonably certain.
He has a heal ability too,
so one is an invisibility ability. Again, we don't know 100% for sure that this is an invisibility ability, but there was a couple journalists before we even got access to this gameplay footage who said that Loki could indeed place illusions and could go invisible. We haven't seen him go invisible, but we have seen him place the illusion. So I assume that they're just correct about the ability to go invisible, and then also this icon just looks like an invisibility icon. And then the other icon,
I mean, that makes
seems
sense
to
for
have
Loki.
some type of healing property applied to it. It just looks like it's a healing ability based on the plus icon, and also he's a support character, so it makes sense that he has some type of healing. It's unclear whether this would be self-healing or targeted healing, though I assume it's targeted healing. I've been wrong before, though. Moving on to the abilities we actually know about for Loki, these are super exciting. In this clip, we see him use both his illusion/turret and his swap ability. So his illusion/turret works exactly how you might expect. It places an illusion, and then it starts firing his regular attack. Now, what's really cool about this, there's so many implications for this ability, but first of all, his turret gives us a look at how his weapon actually works. We can see
that's
Loki
so cool.
shooting Hulk earlier on in the trailer, and we can see that Loki's normal attack is going to have a splash damage effect, so it explodes in a small radius, but unfortunately it looks like he has a relatively low fire rate. Now, as we see later, he can swap positions with his turret, or his illusion, I should say. So you could use it as kind of like movement tech. You could put it on top of a building and then teleport to it. So
man,
you can do that.
I can't wait to check this out.
Use it as almost like bait. You could set up your turret
just to see if
elsewhere,
it's good.
kind of like a safe position, and then you could
good. I'll play it a lot.
Pretend to be your turret sitting on top of a building. Perhaps maybe they ignore your turret, and then if they come for you, who is actually your turret, you could teleport to your turret, who's completely safe, and now they're fighting a real turret instead of you. Lots of cool implications of how this ability works, and yeah, very, very cool. Big fan of this whole system. And then we also see Your Power's Mind, which is Loki's ultimate ability where he can transform into another character. Here's an important note to mention. He can use their ultimate ability and he instantly gains enough charge to do so. So, very, very big...
It's a really cool...
see me play a lot of Loki, because why wouldn't you, man? You get to play every character in the game simultaneously.
It's really cool how
you
could change into other characters like that.
With 45 ammo and 8 ammo.
Jetpack.
One is tied to a healing ability, and the other one's applied to a automatic hit scan weapon. He has
he has a secondary gun that's a heal.
I believe this just works by you passively holding your jump key. You're just going to kind of float in the air a little bit. And he also has a wall crawl. So let's take a look at that. At the very beginning of this clip, you'll see the wall crawl. He'll jump off this building and then immediately go into his jetpack. He's just holding that button. None of his abilities are triggering while this is happening, so not tied to his ability there at all. And then he'll use his ride effect. Moving on to Namor. Namor's really cool. He's got lots of cool stuff going on. So Namor is another damage character. He's got 250 health and seemingly infinite ammo, but there's a big delay
get down.
he can fire. So he's almost like a super.
Sorry, my dog's kind of freaking out.
We do see his bubble ability get used earlier on in the trailer, but to be quite honest, it's really hard to tell what.
Kind of makes it hard for me to try to stream and record videos.
Get out of bubble because the way they used it was in kind of that quirky, gimmicky way.
He has to have attention 24/7.
Set up a specific event to happen in the trailer, so it looked like Hulk was doing something that he wasn't. Don't get me wrong, it looked cool for the trailer, but it's unfortunate for situations like this where we're trying to decipher how this ability works. Unfortunately, we just don't really know much.
Maybe just bubble may just reverse like projectiles or something, or might can bounce off of him.
This version of Octo Turret that you see on your screen, that's his kind of default Octo Turret. It just kind of fires naturally. Then we get to see the team up effect from Luna Snow, and he reuses the turret, and we can see that this turret is kind of
it comes out with ice.
Going on. I assume maybe it slows people that it hits. And then we get to see something really cool, which is if you've been paying attention to these turrets, and I'm going to slow down this footage so you can tell.
You have both of them out? Oh, there's 3 of them out. Hold on.
They just kind of have their own individual timers. But as soon as Namor hits an enemy with his spear, all of the turrets activate, targeting the same person. Where are my League of Legends enjoyers at? I think this is similar to League of Legends Heimerdinger. He lands an ability. It's specific to some abilities, but all of his turrets will stop what they're doing and target the person that you hit with that ability. I think Namor's got the exact same thing going on, which is exciting to see in this kind of 3D perspective as opposed to the top-down perspective in League of Legends. And yeah, I think Namor immediately shot up as soon as I saw his gameplay for me on the list of characters I want to play. Namor, going into this reveal, I was like, I don't really want to play Namor. But after seeing his gameplay, I'm pretty excited about what Namor could be bringing to the table. He can only ever have 3
I'm hyped for Doctor Strange.
Based on his HUD. So yeah, really the only thing we don't know about him is his shift ability. I didn't mention it, but we can see him.
Namor looks fun though.
Ability. At first,
because like Heimerdinger in League is really fun.
Effect. But we can see on the left is his right click, and on the right is his standard left click ability. So the right click is more or less just like an enhanced version of his normal left click. Moving on to Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange is a tank. He only has 6 ammo,
he's a
but his
tank.
standard left click works a little bit differently than other characters. He has 600 health, but not to worry. 600 health is pretty low for a tank,
shield,
I think,
800
based on
shield,
what we've seen
okay.
from other tanks. But he has an 800 health deployable shield. So
oh, I have Agamotto.
Not deployable shield, sorry, a toggleable shield. Think like Ryan Hart from Overwatch, if you're familiar.
Okay,
now, his shooting effect, or his fire effect, or his attack effect, whatever you want to call it, seems to be akin to like a burst fire. It bursts a certain number of particles coming out of his hand, and I assume dealing damage to the person it hits. I don't think this works as like 3-round burst or 4-round burst or anything like that. I think the longer you hold it, it'll burst for longer, or the beam will last longer, and then you'll kind of reload. So I think that's what's happening with the 6 charges. Unfortunately, we never get to see it from his perspective, but I think basically you could burst this for twice, or you could burst this for 6, but at the end of the day, whenever you're done using this ability, there'll be some type of short cooldown, and then you'll restore back up to 6. So 6 is just kind of on how long you can use
I was able to like do an interview with the
but you know, I've been wrong before.
with the devs on this, or the game director.
Used at the beginning of the trailer while he's off screen, while we have the Hulk's perspective. That shield is pretty big for a lot of people.
I'd have like a million questions.
Part of how you're pushing onto objectives. I think Doctor Strange is absolutely going to be a premier tank in this game. It's hard for this type of tank to not be a premier character because it's just such a unique piece of utility that not every character and not every tank's going to have access to. So
there's that shield.
Like
okay,
primary tank for a lot of teams. Then we see his portal ability. I have so many questions.
Portal,
about how this ability works.
Yeah.
All we can say is that it is a portal. There are
It's
so many
sick.
things that could be going on with this. So many questions that I have. Like, does he have to go to point B to set up the portal at point B and then go back to point A to set up his portal there? Can he set up a portal from point A and then like put it anywhere on the map? We can see through that portal. Can enemies go from point B to point A? Can you go to point A to point B, back to point A?
That's so crazy that they gave him that, but it's so cool though.
Or is that just a thing that only we can do? Or is it not based on what team you're on? Is it based on what portal you came from? Like if you set up your portal to go from point A to point B, can you see through portal A into what portal B can see, but portal B can't see back to portal A? There's so many implications for what you could do with this ability based on the specifics of how it works. But for now, all we can say about this ability
there's all kinds of crap you could do with that ability.
That we get to see is Eye of Agamotto. It's his ultimate ability, and it appears to just be a stun. Everyone gets free
big ol' AoE stun. It does some damage.
Ways that this could be working, and it's not entirely clear which one of those ways it is working. I could see this being the type of stun effect.
It's probably like a 1.5 second stun or something.
But I could also just see it being like a permanent team wipe style ultimate, especially because there appears to be some type of startup animation for it where he's like kind of charging it up. So big AoE stun can't be bad. Black Panther is a DPS character. He's kind of our first like straight up melee assassin, unless you talk about Spider-Man that we talked about a little bit earlier. He has 300 health, which is a little bit higher than the traditional character. And I quickly want to talk about what I think is a passive ability. There's a couple shots where we see enemy Black Panthers. We never see an allied Black Panther in this state, but we see enemy Black Panthers in this kind of purpley glowy state. And I was trying to identify what this is. What I think this is he gets some type of damage bonus
like a
based
buff
on
or
his
something.
Current max health. And I think the limit is exactly 50%, because in this clip where he's fighting against magic, we can see he falls to almost exactly 50% health, and on that hit, he gets the purple glow.
He gets the purple glow, right?
Exactly 50% health condition, and I think at 50% health, he's getting some type of damage buff. For what it's worth, we can then extrapolate that this dash attack is dealing like 150 or so damage, because that means this Black Panther that he's hitting just falls to 150 health right as he's getting hit, or right before he gets hit. So dash attack must be dealing 150 health or so, because dash attack totally just KOs the guy. Speaking of dash attack, I guess I didn't even really talk about it. It's just a forward dash ability. It's dealing damage to people in its wake. And we move on to this ability that I've called.
I have a big old husky, and she thinks she's a lap dog.
The first hit of this is indeed a part of the ability, and then he jumps.
Then she gets mad if I won't let her jump up there.
Pretty cool looking. Unfortunately, you never get a look at his right click here, which is
look at that kick, though.
Shaped, so I assume this is a projectile for.
Oh, and then he does like a tornado, right?
Okay. Two charges. Should be a pretty fun ability. It looks like he might have a double
Oh, it does
jump
say 2
or the
charges.
ability to
Okay.
perch on walls as well, based on this HUD icon. And then
Huh.
lastly, we have Tremble Before Blast, which is just a big AoE damage.
That thing is
ability.
sick
it's
too,
hard
though.
to notice as it quickly goes by, but these claws go really far back.
Yeah,
it looks like it's just hitting in front of him and KOing this poor Doctor Strange and destroying this bridge, but you can see the visual effect for the claw all the way back at the furthest building in this hallway.
Right.
So
Yeah, it goes.
really
It goes back.
far-reaching ability. Definitely something to look out for sure. Moving on to our second DPS
Magic.
assassin,
What?
Spider-Man again.
It's so cool they put her in the game.
She has a unique passive ability where wherever she's dealing damage, she's gaining shield. This happens both.
I want Colossus,
so
man.
it's not
Him,
something
Gambit,
you can put down for
Nightcrawler.
ultimate. It's just like something that Magic has. When she deals damage, she gains shield. I'm not
I'd
sure
play
how
the
much
crap
shield
out of
she gains,
Colossus and
probably based on
Gambit.
the amount of damage she's dealing, probably some flat percentage. Her first ability is a dash uppercut. It seems to hit stun the opponent and throw them into the air, so
That's
I assume
nice.
this works as some type of interrupt if the opponent
you
is
can-
channeling some type of ability, like Iron Man charging up his beam or something like that. I assume you can knock them out of that by throwing them into the air, which is pretty cool. Then during her ultimate, she shows off a portal dash.
A little portal
where she
dash
just
thing,
kind of
yeah.
dashes from point A to point B. It seems like it's a relatively short range.
Dude, look how much
but
damage
just
that
during
did.
that time, she appears to be untargetable, and I
that's,
assume undamageable. So she's
slice
effectively
ability?
immune during this dash. So you can definitely use this to get away or reposition for certain fights.
During
And
her ultimate?
understanding how to use this ability is going to be pretty important for Magic because she's going to be a pretty high skill cap character. Most of these kind of melee assassin style of characters in these types of games are usually quite high skill cap just because they're usually quite squishy. So understanding where you need to be on the map at any given time is kind of important. Not kind of important, it's paramount.
I was gonna say, no, it's
Behold
important.
Dark Child, which is her ultimate ability. I assume that her left clicks have
Behold
nowhere
Dark Child.
near this much range when she's not hitting her ultimate ability, but you can see it's able to hit multiple people in a single slice. It covers a wide range, so if she really
That's
does
a pretty
gain
big
shield from the
AoE.
damage she's doing while she's in this ultimate,
big
she's going to be
slice,
really
pretty big
hard to
AoE.
kill because she's going to be able to hit multiple targets, so she's going to be getting a lot of shield. So you need to be able to kill her within like a rotation of her attacks, or else she's just going to gain more and more shield, and she's going to be more and more threatening. Definitely a really scary character. Not my
That's
type of
crazy.
character. Melee Assassins is not usually
gets that
the
shield.
place that I go when I play these types of games. But
And
if
he
it's
gets
the type of character
bigger?
you're into,
Oh
you
my
definitely gotta put it
gosh.
here. I definitely think she's going to be super fun to play, especially because of that passive shield.
Right?
Moving
That
on to
passive
Luna
shield's
Snow,
wild.
She is a support character with 30 ammo. Her primary fire heals
she
allies.
heals?
We never
Okay.
see it be targeted on an enemy, though I assume it's going to deal damage to enemies because currently she doesn't have any damage dealing abilities, so I assume the left click can deal damage to enemies. We have Be Stronger Together. It's her shift ability based on the visual effect we see at her feet. I'm guessing this is a movement speed buff ability. Next up is Ice Energy. I assume this is a flat damage buff. We don't see Namor's speed increase at all. We don't see his shield increase, so I think it's just a damage buff, maybe even an attack speed buff. And of course, as we
Okay.
talked about before, it is a team map activation for Namor, so his turrets get a little bit stronger. We get a quick glimpse at her ultimate. It's not much to look at just yet because it's a very short clip, but we can see it's an AoE heal. People's
AoE
health are
heal,
increasing.
yeah.
It is affecting her, which is an important thing to mention, but it's also
It doesn't
affecting allies.
look
While
like
she's in
it
this
shields,
state
it's
during
just
her ultimate,
heals.
She also has this Q ability, or this heads-up display notification saying that she can swap. If she presses Q here, she'll swap between whatever state she's in right now and another state. So I'm kind of thinking she has a Lucio thing going on where she can
I was gonna
swap
say, as
between healing
Lucio has a
and
thing
movement
like that
speed
in Overwatch.
while she's in this state, while she's in her ultimate only, which would be pretty cool. And
So maybe
the last
one
character we
stance
have
heals, the
going
other
on is
one
Groot. Groot is a
does like some kind of
pseudo-melee
damage buff or
character. He's got
something,
kind of
movement
this
buff,
extending
movement speed buff.
arm that he hits people with, and we don't know his HP because we never see any first person, or we never see any gameplay from Groot's perspective.
Groot.
We see gameplay of
I play
Rocket
Groot.
on top
That's
of
one of my
Groot,
favorite
but never
characters
actually Groot
in
himself.
Marvel.
The one confirmed 100% ability we see from Groot is this kind of ramp.
I want to see
I
Blade and
wrote
Morbius,
Fortnite ramp in
especially
my,
Morbius.
notes, 'cause it looks very much like a Fortnite ramp, right? You just build something.
And
in front of
Ghost
him for a
Rider.
quick second.
Oh.
It's a very cool tech for flank routes, and you could use it defensively. And I'm sure it has some cool synergy with some
Deadpool's
characters.
ultimate
Otherwise,
should
we
be
wouldn't
like
have, like the crazy
Katarina's from League of Legends. And just call it Bang Bang or something.
Kind of like a May wall.
It just
or
pops
a
out and
Sage
starts
wall
spinning
that
around
you
like
see
Reaper
in
shooting guns or
Overwatch.
something.
So definitely a lot of utility to be had in
It
that
should be
type
Deadpool's
of
ultimate.
ability historically in these types of games. And then I think we get to see Groot's ultimate ability. He says, "I am Groot," and while I can't confirm this is his ultimate ability, I would be shocked if this ability that pulled 5 people together
Does it knock him
wasn't
up too?
Groot's ultimate ability. All right, that's it from me. That is
That's
all
what-
the
that's what I
information
wanna
should
see
mine from
Groot's
the trailer
ultimate
that
be.
we got for Marvel Rivals.
Is,
Yes, that was a long video for what was a very short trailer, but
a Luna
what can I
Snow
say?
skin, I
There's a lot
think.
to talk about. Thank you so much for watching.
So that would be cool if Groot's ultimate was like this AoE where he just grabs everybody, pulls them to him like Ares does in Smite, and then does a knockup. That would be cool. See, they didn't. We didn't get no footage of Storm really, but there's Magneto, Storm, Star-Lord, Punisher, Mantis, and Scarlet Witch. That's crazy. I have a pic that should be showing on the screen now. That's also from Willow that Willow had put on Twitter, and it shows damage like the DPSers. The Punisher, Storm, Black Panther, Magic, Iron Man, Spider-Man, Scarlet Witch, Star-Lord, and Namor. Tanks is Bruce Banner, Hulk, Doctor Strange, Groot, Magneto is the tank, okay, and then Penny Parker, and then support characters are Loki, Mantis, Rocket Raccoon, Luna Snow, and then there's rumors and leaks of Doctor Doom, Moon Knight, and Thor. So that would be cool to see Moon Knight. I like how they're. That would be cool to have Moon Knight and Doctor Doom. Oh, I'm sure Doctor Doom will. Man, I don't know what they would put Doctor Doom as. He could be support, tank, or damage. Moon Knight definitely, hopefully, damage. Thor could be. I'm pretty sure he'll probably be damage, but I mean, depends how they design a character. It could be a tank or support somehow. So, uh, I I do like the mix of the characters that they're choosing to go with. So there's a lot of potential for this. And I think a lot of people enjoy it, especially people that are pretty bummed out about stuff that's going on in Overwatch. I don't really play Overwatch. I used to play a lot of Overwatch, but I haven't played in a long time. And that's kind of like basically what the game looks like. It's like a Overwatch with maybe some improvements, and it's painted with a Marvel skin, with different characters, different abilities. All right, well, that's it for me for this video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Does it get you hyped? Is it something you might check out? You don't care for it? Just let me know your opinions, and I will put all the Willow's links to this stuff in the description below, and go check them out too. And I will see you guys in the next video. I hope all of you are doing well, and I hope all of you have an amazing day. Peace.